Someone's going to go for two and get it at some point.
It's 1:42 in the morning.
Yeah, that's all right. Number one. Shocker. Iron.
Man, give me the Trojans.
There we go. Welcome into Overtime, presented by Perfection One. My name is John Bruce, along with Shayne Combs. And welcome into the new Chillicothe Sports Card Studio here at the new SOSA offices here in downtown Chillicothe. How are you doing today, Shayne?
Doing really, really well. Nice to get out a little bit. I know we've been snowed in, and hope everybody's safe, and hopefully we'll be right back to a busy basketball schedule and get back to school here and wrap up before the holidays. But I know it's a busy time of year, but it's an exciting time of year.
Yeah, it definitely is an exciting time of year. This is episode 83 of SOSA Overtime, as always, presented by Perfection One. And as we've mentioned a couple different times, we're in the Chillicothe Sports Card Studio. If you want to find out anything more about where to look in this episode for what you want to hear, look in the timestamps down below. That will be, as always, updated with the show whenever it's posted. So today's your first day here in the Chillicothe Sports Card Studio. I've been here a couple different times, but this is our first show we've been able to do. Now, the original plan before the winter came a little bit early was we were going to film our show here on Sunday, and then we were going to do the Coach's Call-In show right after, and that was going to go live. So those are going to be our first two shows. Technically, they're going to be our first two shows anyway, but we're doing them on Tuesday and Wednesday now instead of the originally planned Sunday and Sunday. So this episode is going out a little bit later than normal. So you'll see this coming out Tuesday afternoon. But, hopefully next week we'll be back to normal. The storm was just a little bit too much coming in on Sunday. We are at a level, I think we were still at a level 2 on Sunday, and it was just not going to be great to go back in. So with all the games being canceled, almost all the games on Saturday, so shout out to the Battle in the 740 to play a few, and then a couple more games got played also on Saturday. But for the most part, most games canceled on Saturday, postponed. Everything was postponed on Sunday, and then on Monday was postponed as well. So we hadn't really missed a whole lot that we would have talked about on Sunday anyway.
Yeah, I think with today's show, there's a lot of just material that will make a lot of sense no matter when you're listening to it. As always, there'll be some stuff that might be a little bit older, but we try to approach it in a way that would still be enjoyable to listen to if you follow those teams or what. But you're right. I mean, it's some people got creative there Saturday morning and got some stuff in. Other than that, there just wasn't a whole lot of options. We sit here on a Tuesday afternoon, and I think they're going to try some things on Tuesday night. But I'll be honest, some schools have to still be concerned about tomorrow morning. I think we'll be okay if we can get the kids there, getting them home. But there's a lot more that goes into having a school day than there is just playing a basketball game later that evening.
Yeah, like I feel like there's going to be maybe more games played on Tuesday evening than maybe schools go on time on Wednesday, which
possible.
Just because of how the weather does change in the morning and whatnot. So it looks like it's going to be a little warmer today. Looks like we should be okay the rest of the week. I don't know if this is real wood or not, but I'm going to knock on it just in case. So this is your first time here in the new studio. What are your thoughts?
Outstanding. I'm just so excited just to hear all the different ideas and the different things. So there's a coach in me that's excited about a lot of things, especially on that baseball, softball side. Then there's just a love for high school sports and media coverage and different things. And then just kind of another growing thing in our community that highlights kids. So there's just a lot to be excited about. And as we move forward, I can't wait to help promote all the different parts that this particular facility is going to give our community.
Yeah, right now we have our Chillicothe Sports Card Studio, so we appreciate Chillicothe Sports Cards for sponsoring our studio. Check them out, 25 East Main Street in Chillicothe. So we appreciate them. But to our left is going to be the dugout, which is going to be I'm not 100% sure it's been announced yet, but there's going to be some really cool stuff. And as Shayne said, with the baseball, softball side, there's going to be a lot of opportunities over there that will be coming and will be announced. I know we're going to do a little kind of walkthrough whenever it's all finished, which should be right around the first of the year, which I think is going to be really cool for the community, because anytime kids get a chance to get out and improve their baseball, softball skills, it's just going to make it better throughout the area as well.
Yeah, real excited. Y'all kind of wait my turn to let them roll it out the way they want, and then I'll be excited to be an ambassador for it and promote it. But I can promise you, for being someone that's been involved for 30 years on the baseball side and following softball closely as well, that it's going to be really exciting for kids of all ages to really be able to use year round.
Yes, I agree completely. Now, one of the things that we have a couple extra cameras in here. I think it's kind of swinging around and getting itself acclimated. So we're working on that as well. So trying a lot of different things in here. It should be really cool. We appreciate, Art Jacob Wise for, stepping back in after he'd been away from SOSA for a little bit, stepping back in and really helping us get this all off the ground in a big way now that he's been made available for us. So we appreciate everything Jacob does for us at SOSA, and we welcome him back, and maybe we'll get him back on a call someday.
Oh, that'd be outstanding.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's as good as it gets, and always enjoy working with him.
Yes. So now we're going to move back into kind of this week a little bit. So one of the things we've talked about at different times. We want to focus on some discussion here at the beginning of the show before we get into the different activities throughout the week, the different games, different achievements and whatnot. You're a longtime coach. I was a longtime assistant coach. You also were a longtime assistant coach as well. So one of the things that we always have found interesting, especially now with the 6 quarters that you can do, is just how different coaches use the JV level. So if you don't know, you used to be able to play 5 quarters a night, and that was freshman JV varsity, or JVB, JVA varsity now, however you want to call it. You used to be able to play 5 quarters, but then with COVID, it went to 6 quarters. Make it to where we could make sure we had all those games. But there was still a limit on how many quarters you could play in a season. I think that's all out the window. I'm not even 100% sure on that part, but it is interesting to me how different coaches use the JV level. Like for you, now obviously baseball is different because maybe you use the JV level to get someone who's not going to pitch varsity some innings in on JV, get them some innings, keep their arm ready just in case they are needed on varsity. But with basketball, it's more fluid, where you can go from JV to varsity pretty quickly, or maybe depending on the night. So when you look at how different coaches use the JV level, what do you look at, and then what did you as a coach use to use it to the best of its ability?
Well, I'll just start personally. Like for baseball, as you said, it was not even the same comparison to basketball. Basketball, majority of the nights you play, your JV's playing right before your varsity. They're right there in the same gym. A lot of times wearing the same uniforms, different things like that, and you just transition one to the other, and you have your quarters. On the baseball side, it's completely different. If we're playing at home, JV's on the road, I had to make a decision. It was all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't let's play a little bit here, a little bit here. So this is probably in all sports, but I think basketball really misses an opportunity. I see a lot of coaches that are really failing the development of some kids by not using enough JV. That's just my opinion. Now, I'll also say this, being a head coach for 30 years and then doing a lot of assistant work for probably 20 plus years, it's a lot easier for the assistant coach to say this, because the head coach has got to be the one that stamps his or her name right to the to the decision and saying, okay, you're going to play here, here, and here, and you're going to play here and here and here, and here's why. The problem comes down to we live in a culture where junior varsity is starting to become more and more of a curse word. It's like, you want me to play what? Why you want me to play here? That's boring. No one's in the gym. here's my purpose behind all this. A lot of times, John, you have someone, let's say, even a starter, a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th man on a boys or girls basketball team, and they might play a certain role as a freshman or sophomore in high school. And I see so many athletes push themselves to the varsity level, and they're playing a certain role, but their development and their overall game stops, and they really lose an opportunity. This in the old school days, we'll call them. You know what I mean? It was very normal for a freshman, sophomore boy, especially, to need that extra year of development, and they could go out and they could let the game go free a little bit. Their ball handling would improve, their ability to create their own shot. You don't freak out about a bad shot in the JV game. Not that you want those, you know what I mean, but it's a teachable moment. Where in varsity, I've seen examples here in some of our string games. You take 2 or 3 bad shots in a 2 or 3 minute stretch, you get you blown out. So there's just not the room for growth at the varsity level. So if you really break it down, a kid may be playing 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes a night, and that's it. Where I guess my argument would be they would still have some opportunity at the JV level. And the programs have been able to do this. I think they really see a huge benefit as the year goes on with the development of those kids. But then really where they see it is in the years to come, and it starts to roll the program over a little bit more, and you start to see some growth in those kids.
Well, you mentioned that, and I immediately, and this is not because it's your brother, but kind of what your brother did last year with Unioto. So they had, I'll go by name, but it was Isaac Coy, Jack Welch, and Caden Patterson all played some JV last year for them, while also playing big roles coming off the bench for the varsity. Well, in JV, they had completely different roles than what they did on varsity. Now, they're varsity starters, and they're more in what those roles were on the JV team last year than they were with the varsity, where like a Welch would come in and give spot minutes, play some really good defense, where on JV last year he would have been more of a shot taker. Well, he scores 20 points in the varsity game the other day because he's a shot taker now, but that wasn't his varsity role last year. But having a chance to play at that JV level makes it to where, okay, he's comfortable doing that while also mixing in with the varsity and doing his role there. And now, as he's on varsity full time and his role has expanded, well, he's done it. So now he's comfortable doing it. So, and I think that's where you kind of mentioned this to me last year about, you like that he was doing it. And then I've seen it the couple times I've seen them play. It's there immediately of, you can tell the difference in those guys of, yes, they're your older, but they are confident in, this isn't a foreign thing to them.
Well, and again, it's not always an easy sell. I get that. And then I understand too, in that program that there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of, it's a little bit of bigger enrollment and so forth. I understand it's a smaller school. Sometimes it's a harder sell. And But here's the other thing you see too. Sometimes in those more established programs, you're looking around the league and you're seeing a lot of, say, a freshman here, freshman there starting varsity, or this sophomore getting a chance to average 8, 9, 10 a game, and you're over here kind of waiting your turn. I think that's part of it too. Mm-hmm. So I will say after being a varsity assistant on the girls' side at a couple different schools for probably 13, 14 years, you certainly see it more on the boys' side. Mm-hmm. That freshman boy sometimes just needs that extra year of physical development, where a lot of times a girl you can throw in. But I would even argue on the girls' side that I've seen examples of where a kid comes in and they're athletically ready as a freshman, mm-hmm. and then their junior year, you'll watch them and they're good, but they've never quite developed some mm-hmm. of the skills where, I always love having the JV opportunity. Go down and run the point. Go down and handle the basketball. Go down and shoot the three a little bit. Go down and do some different things. And I just think you'll see a carryover. And it's not necessarily changing your varsity role. You're still available mm-hmm. there, but it's just the opportunity to get kids playing a little bit more and getting the ball in their hands and just continuing to develop some of that skill. I've just seen a lot of examples over the years where a lot of good athletes, I thought, missed out on some development. Their junior, senior year, they went on to be okay. They could have been at a completely different level.
Well, and then you mentioned, go down and handle the ball a little bit. Well, sometimes a kid that grows quickly and is maybe like 5'10", 5'11" in middle school is put at a center position. Well, they are probably going to be 5'10", 5'11" throughout, so they maybe don't have the ball handling skills that they could get if they ran the point or, did a little bit more ball handling. So if you go down and play the JV level, run the point for a quarter or a half, you can work on your ball handling
People
skills.
say a quarter half, does that matter? Well, yeah, it matters over the course of 20 games.
Yeah. So you eventually are going to get stronger at those positions, and obviously that helps you grow as an individual. But let's go to our next topic real quick. So the point guard position. So the point guard position is something that, obviously, we've kind of joked about it. Like you played it at a really high level. I played it at a level, and, it is something that we both, value, and we look at just overall as how important it is to your team is the point guard level. So when you think about the point guard position, what do you look at as some of the factors in making really high level point guards? Because not all point guards are created the same, because sometimes you have pass first point guards. You have some that aren't going to shoot very much, and sometimes they're going to be more, ball heavy, take more shots.
In the last 25 years, the Little League culture has started to flip this a little bit, and then you'll see it in the NBA game, the college game, all the way down. A lot of times now your point guards are more volume, guys and gals that have the ball in their hand more. They're going to be asked to score a little bit more, shoot a little bit more. When you think of the point guard position, that's certainly part of the modern game. When I'm talking about the point guard position, I'm simply talking about someone, to use an old school term, as an extension of his or her head coach on the court. They understand tempo. They understand what is it we're trying to do. Why are we trying to do it? Where is everybody supposed to be? What's my role in that? And you have to be rock solid and composure. You have to be able to, your nonverbal scream louder than anything. And as I watch certain games, I see certain point guards, their frustration, their inability to stay composed, it hurts their team. I've seen other examples where certain point guards have a complete understanding of what's going on. The kid we called the other night in the Eastern game,
Kane Dotson.
Kane Dotson, man, he was good.
Yeah.
And he's not. Most people would watch that team play and wouldn't even rank him as the top 2 or 3 players. Is that fair?
Right.
I mean, they might say he's their 4th, 5th best player. Okay, that's a discussion for another time. I can tell you he's as important a player as they have. He understands exactly what Coach Buechler wants. His nonverbals were positive. He played with energy. He understood where the ball needed to go and why they were trying to get it there. And over the course of 2.5, 3 quarters, it started to wear on the foul trouble and so forth. That was just an example. I really enjoyed watching that young man play and calling his game. But you see examples of this, John, throughout the girls' game and the boys' game, being able to bring a calmness to the game. We always joke, like, as a coach, when he or she has the ball, we are calm.
Yes.
we feel like, okay, we're going to possess the ball. There's other times where certain people have the ball, you're like, okay, are we going to turn it over, pass back? Yeah. And you don't have that calmness. So I guess that's what I'm talking about, is just the ability to really handle the ball cleanly. And I understand in the modern day game, you may also be asked to score the basketball, which is just the way the game's changed. That's fine. But that doesn't mean you still can't have these other intangibles that really, really run your team as well.
I completely agree. So you mentioned Kane Dotson, and there was one play where it was a 4-on-2 break late, and he kind of pulled it out to give one of the bigs time to get down on the block, because Fairfield had their big with 4 fouls, so they went down on the block. He picks up his 5th foul, and at that point, you could really tell that's probably the game.
Yeah, high IQ player. I remember exactly the play you're talking about.
Yeah.
Really, really high IQ. And again, just understanding time and score, and it becomes about winning.
Yes.
It's just winning basketball.
Yeah, 100% agree. So, we'll talk some other positional stuff throughout, but just wanted to go start with our point guard talk for this week, because, kind of point guards kind of runs the show for the team, and as you said, an extension of the coach. And I think when you look at it's not always, but there's a lot of times when coaches' kids are point guards. Now, I know, your dad coached for a long time, and, you're a point guard. Your brother, not a point guard, but your brother also had some good guard play with him as well. But, Kane Dotson, his dad, longtime assistant coach down at Eastern. So, I mean, you can just tell a lot of times when they're the extension of the coach, well, it's because
they're an extension of the coach.
They're an extension of the coach. So, yeah, it's definitely a topic that and we can maybe talk the evolution of it another time where it has gone where that sometimes you'll see scoring first point guards, and there's nothing wrong with that because as an extension of the coach, if the coach feels comfortable with you at the ball, coach is probably going to feel comfortable with you making the right decisions to get those shots. So like a Cage Alexander from Waverly, outstanding player, really good point guard. Mm-hmm. Well, he's a scoring first point guard. And I guarantee Coach Jarrett's like, That's
a great example because we do have a lot of different. We're going to mention so many throughout the show. The young lady, eminent from Portsmouth Clay, has the 15 assists. I know here in the SVC, you think of Smith and Huntington, Barry, Zane, Trace. They're a little bit more of an old school floor general. Yeah. You take a Fitch, a player of the year, Unioto. He's certainly going to score, but he certainly has a lot of those old school intangibles that we're talking about. We mentioned, we just mentioned Fairfield in our game. You go to the other end, Friend of Fairfield, outstanding player. His team needs him to score. So sometimes it's you don't have the luxury of just being a floor general where you're going to come up and pass it to the wing. They need that young man not to only do that, they also need him, oh, by the way, we need you to get 15 to 20, or we can't be successful. So there's all kinds of moving parts, but I am always fascinated just to break down that position just because I love the position.
Yes, so we talked about it a little bit, but let's get a little bit more. Now we're going to jump into boys basketball. Fairfield at Eastern Brown. It was a game last Tuesday, 62-53. Fairfield Eastern wins. There's a couple different things, so you can go back through our YouTube, rewatch the game. It was an outstanding game.
Great game.
Outstanding game, and really. Shout out to Eastern Brown. They got us, if you watch the pregame with how it was lagging and everything, it was like, ooh, this could be rough. But they got us right before the national anthem, just completely fixed. So we appreciate everything Eastern has done. And, I mean, really, all of the schools so far this year have been great for us. So, and they typically are anyway. But we really appreciate what they were able to do to help us get on and get going because early in that game, Brody Smith got going. So that's one of the other things where, we had a couple little things on Brody Smith went out, I think, on Instagram, but a full game highlight package went out on YouTube as well. So, but Brody Smith, man, he really got going. He had 27 points for the Lions. A couple of those threes were super deep as well.
Incredible shot maker. We were talking on the way down to the game. If you followed his career last year, his consistency was unreal, and his ability to shoot it from the three-point line was off the charts. And he kind of struggled in their opener against Fayetteville. It was a lower scoring, more of a half-court game. He had trouble just getting some good looks. He had some go in and out on him. And you just had the feeling, John, whenever a player of that caliber has one of those games, they're just biting at the bit to get back out there. And he didn't waste any time. He got it going. And it's like any great shooter. You see that first one go through, and all of a sudden, you're like, he must be looking at a basket that's,
right.
25 feet wide or whatever. And he was throwing them in from everywhere.
Yeah, I never had that happen for me. But, he had 17 in the first half. But one of the players we talked about, Kane Dotson, we talked about in the point guard position. He was put on Smith in the second half. He was able to slow him down a little bit. He still had 10 in the second half. But I thought that was a big-time difference maker in the second half was that they forced someone else to do it. Now, Griffin Friend did a really good job of that as he put up a really nice night as well. But, there were different players that stepped up throughout the game for Eastern in this when, Chase Pinkerton had a really big first half. Braxton Vance was great down the stretch, outstanding down the stretch at the line, hit 8 for 8 in the last, I think, a minute 5. He was 8 for 8 from the line, and that's a senior stepping up. And, every time he got fouled, he's just jogging to the line. He wanted the ball there. He wanted to get going. And, that's a big leadership thing on a team that really only has one healthy senior right now. So, I mean, that's something Coach Buechler really needs. Dotson was really good. Matthew Dick, I thought, played really well. He's got some really good size, and he is, watching him on JV the last couple of years, you've seen he's got the pieces for it. It just kind of, everything had to kind of go together coordination-wise, footwork-wise, everything seemingly has done so. I thought he was really impactful for them as well. But, man, Carter Cluxton coming off the bench.
Cluxton was really good.
20 points for them, and, so Smith hits a three to cut it to a three-point game, and then Fairfield hits another three to make it 47 all, and then they immediately just run an action for Cluxton, hits a three. Next trip down, instead of hitting the three, pump fakes, drives, and scores. It's a 5-point game immediately, and it's because Carter Cluxton coming off the bench, 20 points, hit 4 out of 6 threes on the night, was just outstanding.
There's a couple things you said there that put the light bulb off on. First of all, you mentioned JV. We just talked about it, right? So, like, the development of kids and the ability to come up through JV helps you develop the whole game. You don't just become only a kid that can make one particular post move, or you don't just become a spot-up shooter. You don't become just someone who can play some defense because you're athletic. You become a full player. The thing that jumped out at me about the Eastern team, the total difference in the basketball game was the depth.
Yes.
So they had far more kids that could do far more things. So through foul trouble, give Fairfield a lot of credit.
Yes.
I thought some kids like Burgess and Rice and did a great job of just trying to play really hard and keep their team in.
It was Burgess who hit the three to tie it at 47, and Chase Rice I thought played a really good all-around game. And then
Caleb.
Caleb Rice, and then Quentin McIntosh I thought gave some really good minutes when he was available,
absolutely.
but he just,
foul
dealt
trouble.
with a lot of foul trouble.
But again, throughout all those things that naturally happen in a game, Eastern just had more places they could go for offense. They had more places they could go for 3 and 4 minute spurts of defense. They obviously had the great point guard play we've already highlighted, and that ended up just over the course of 32 minutes being the difference. Do you agree? I mean, right around mid-third quarter, you could just kind of tell, like, I don't know if Fairfield's going to have enough to play at this tempo for this long.
Well, and the fun part about that is they only played 7. Each team only played 7 guys, but I thought the fact that Eastern was getting something out of all of them was such a big thing, because like Kane Dotson took 3 shots in the game. Like, he didn't have to shoot, but he's playing really good defense.
Isn't that something? He took 3 shots and dominated the basketball game. Yeah.
He didn't have an assist. Just 3 shots, 1 rebound, just completely dominated the game because
he understood where the ball needed to go to get things and understood tempo and that's an outstanding stat.
Yeah, then Sam Raymer gave some really good minutes, especially early. Second half, they kind of tightened things up, but I mean, really, they had 4 guys in double figures, which, I mean, Fairfield had 2. So, I mean, that's such a big difference when you have those different guys that can impact a game with scoring or not even shooting. Yeah. And, that ultimately can make a difference. And that's, to me, and kind of like you said, that made the difference in that. So it ends up being a 9-point game. Was not a 9-point game. It was a really hardly contested game, pretty tight throughout. There was a lot of lead changes in it and ties as well, but gets tied at 47, and then after that it was Carter Cluxton took over and ultimately gave Eastern the win.
Yeah, the Osirac was the name I was trying to think of earlier. Zach, I thought he did a good, but he too got in some foul trouble.
Yes.
So what was happening is they were getting into the bench sooner and then a little too often. Mm-hmm. But as you said, both are playing 7. But Eastern, their player development, don't you feel like when you watch a Pinkerton, when you watch a Cluxton, when you watch some of those guys, their versatility allows them to just slide up and advance.
Yeah.
They slide up and down. Coach, you need me to play a little 2, a little 4, a little 3. I can do all that. And it's just, I tell you, I really, really walked away impressed with Eastern. I think they're in for a really good year. And the scary thing is they're pretty much all back.
Yeah. So it's, Braxton Vance is the senior that's playing a lot right now for them. But, And they've got a Jaden Florence that played a lot last year that is injured right now. So I mean, if he comes back, that's just going to make them a little bit deeper as well.
I was impressed with their JV team too. I thought
Henry
they had a lot of
Fobar.
athletes. Yeah.
Henry Fobar looked really good in that JV game, and I mean he's a player that's going to continue to grow at that JV level throughout. So I mean they were supposed to play Waverly on Saturday. That got moved to February 10th, and I think that's going to be a must-watch game late in the season.
Oh, absolutely.
A couple more games in this. They've got White Oak coming up. White Oak is an improved team. West Union at Hillsboro, and then Eastern Pike the Saturday after Christmas, the 27th. That'll be a really good game at Eastern Brown. Man, their schedule is. Coach Buechler's got to be happy with that schedule because they are at home a lot. So
they have not played since that.
They have not.
That's going to be an interesting thing too to kind of watch as teams get back into it, because you never know how many times they've been in the gym to practice and those types of things.
Yeah, so that's Tuesday. We're filming on Tuesday. They play White Oak tonight. So if you haven't heard this, you can check the score out there. Now, one of the things that is slightly different about the new Chillicothe Sports Cards Studio is we will no longer have the bottom line going on the show. That is, one adjustment we had to make on kind of tightening things up a little bit for us here. But as always, you can check out the Norfolk Animal Clinic scoreboard on our website, sosaohio.com, to see all the scores. I believe it may have it for the entire year going back, but I know you can definitely go back at least a week, or maybe it may switch over at the season. But I do know that you can go back to all of last week's scores and find them there. Then we also have the Haynes Total Healthcare standings page on there as well. And then, as always, typically on Sundays, you can watch the Haynes Total Healthcare Coaches College Show. It'll be on Wednesday this week, but also on Sunday as well. So if you're still on here from Eastern, Coach Picker will be on there from the girls' side, will be on Wednesday of this week. So one of the things now, this is going to be slightly on topic, but it's slightly off topic as well. It's like we were on the floor for that game.
I always love when you start with off topic.
Yeah.
I never know where you're going to go. You make me nervous.
We're not going to talk completely about the game.
Yeah.
But when you're on the floor, and then especially on that side where we're at, man, watching Coach Buechler, I mean, we were on his side of the floor, so that's why we're going to talk a little bit about him. But watching these longtime coaches coach, it's so much fun. Like it's really, I, for the most part, whenever I've been around, it was Coach Hoops, who obviously won 250 plus games, had an outstanding career, and one of my really good friends. But it's really fun watching other coaches coach as well, because I was on the sideline for 10 years with Coach Hoops. Now getting to be on the sideline and watching other coaches coach is really fun as well. I feel like we're learning every time we're down on the floor.
No question. You love to be a part of, especially as a coach yourself. I remember when I was a young coach, you'd hang on every call. You hang on every travel, be a second quarter foul. It could be and then as you grow and you mature, you start to realize the different things that you got to do, and how much, man, there's so much coaching to do on every play and so forth. And I agree. I just really, really enjoyed watching them work the sidelines, work the huddle, just very well organized through even the intense moments, very composed. And as kids were composed and organized as a result. And it was just you're bringing a lot of experience. I know we're going to highlight some different coaches throughout as we go, but I've always said far more than any window to what blows my mind is the years and their passion and their ability to adjust. They have their non-negotiables. We talked about this last week a little bit. They have their non-negotiables, but at the same time, you don't do it for that long if you don't adjust. And obviously, there's been some great adaptability there to continue to do what they do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, here's a game last Wednesday that I was at. I know you weren't, but we have a story on SOSA.com. Fairfield Union at Logan Elm on the boys' side. I wasn't 100% sure how this game was going to go because Fairfield Union absolutely hammered Hamilton Township to start their season. and it looks like Hamilton Township may be back to 100% because they had a really good win over Circleville later.
I saw that.
And then Logan Elm had lost to Circleville at home. We saw them against Bexley. it was a nice win for them, but I just wasn't sure how this game was going to go. But man, it was a really fun game to watch at Logan Elm. 38-35. Logan Elm beats Fairfield Union. Brady Neff scores. It's really, I kind of jokingly said it's the play that when a coach gets the job in the MSL, they are handed a playbook that says you're running this elbow backdoor play and it's going to work. And then you'll be like, well, we ran this at a different school. Yeah, but we run it this way and no one can stop it. It's like, well, we run it the same way. No one can stop it. They ran it, and Brady Neff even said it in the post-game interview. Was like, "Hey, we've ran that play for 4 years, and it works." And they ran it earlier in the game, and it worked. And then they were like, 2.5 minutes left, tie game. We're gonna get to the high post. You're gonna overplay it. We're gonna cut it. We're gonna score. And ultimately, that ends up being the go-ahead winning or the go-ahead basket. It's not just the MSL that runs; a lot of different places run it too. But it's like, you can coach your kids up as much as you want. Once that shooter sprints out, it's hard for them to not overplay it a little bit and then that backdoor cut not be open. So really good execution by the Braves, and then even better defense down the stretch as that put them up 37-35. They got 3 stops after that, and then the final minute was just a masterclass. Coach Dropsy and his staff, obviously, Logan Elm, they're a really well-coached team. They have been going back 25 years. Coach Dropsy takes over, I think, 3 years ago, and just, he was part of that staff for a long time, and you can see the same things are carrying over because they make Ethan Manson splits a pair of free throws with 48 seconds left. 48 seconds. And it wasn't until 4 seconds left that Fairfield Union got a shot off. They had 3 fouls to give. They played good, hard defense for about 15 seconds, and they fouled. Or no, it was played good, hard defense and got a timeout. Then they played good, hard defense for about 15 seconds. Then they fouled. Then they gave another foul. They gave another foul. By the time they got done giving their fouls, it's like 11 seconds left. So then Fairfield Union, you don't really have the option to go 2 for 1 because they did such a great job of keeping them out of the paint, keeping them beyond the arc, and then not giving up a shot. So then you get kind of a forced shot with about 3 seconds left, ends up being wedged into the side of the rim, as I would yell on, a wedgie on our broadcast. But that happens with a little over a second left. Fortunately for Fairfield Union, they had possession arrow, so they draw up a play, get a decent look. I mean, it hits off the side of the rim and goes wide, but because of their execution defensively in that situation, time and score situation, as we talked about, Logan Elm was able to get a really big home victory. And, how important do you look at those time and score situations when you're doing it in practice? Now, the other day, we're getting ready to set up over at Adena. Adena is going over their girls' practice, and I just hear, minute left. I don't remember. It was either down 6 or up 6. But either way, just going through those time and score situations in practice, how important are those?
Well, they're crucial, and it's as you were talking about that, it got me thinking not only at the end of the game, but how you end quarters. I've thought of several examples here recently where a team that was probably considered the underdog in games, if they could have just been a little bit better at the end of quarters, they ended up giving 3 extra possessions. I can think of one example where a team got 3 extra possessions, one at the end of the first, one at the end of the second, one at the end of the third, and then ended up scoring on 2 out of 3. For a total of 5 points, and then there was a foul called in another one. And just like all of that stuff adds up to where you go. And a whole different topic is the shot clock and some different things that it could add to the game, especially at the end of the game. That's why I've always been a big in favor guy of the shot clock. But no, it's an absolute must, and it goes back to the point guard oftentimes. Do you understand? Yeah, and it also goes back to the culture piece that we've been talking about, an understanding of the we instead of the me that I was talking about in the pregame of the Adena versus Paint Valley a matchup the other night, where when a coach says one shot with 30 seconds to go, it takes 5 people to be on the same page, and we're going to get one shot so that the other team doesn't get the ball back. And man, those things just add up and are so crucial. Good teams dominate into the quarter situation.
Yes, 100% agree. And that was what was so impressive. I mean, and really, Fairfield Union's a very good team as well. So, I mean, it's nothing against them in that situation, but I just thought it was what Logan Elm was able to do.
Logan Elm, when they spread you out with 3, 4, 5 different ball handlers, they can play some keep away from you with the best of them.
Yeah, they were outstanding at that late in the game. Now, they even ran a similar to that back door, and I thought it was a pretty bad missed call because the Owen Russell's jersey went from tucked into very untucked, and when he goes up for a layup, and that's when Ethan Manson gets the offensive rebound and gets fouled, which puts him at the line. And because they were able to execute at the time and score, where I think they knew, hey, we're not going to be able to run a minute 30 off the clock. Let's make sure we get a layup. So they get a layup, end up because of probably a foul, and they still get a point out of it, which is huge, leading to the victory for them. So I did want to point out a couple of guys in this. Kelton Bennington was really good in that first half for Logan Elm, knocked down 3 threes in that first half, but also he got an offensive rebound off of a missed free throw, down by 3 in the fourth. He kicked it out. Owen Russell with his feet set, knocks down a 3, and that made it 35 all. And ultimately, starts a 6-0 run to end the game. So Bennington and Russell were really good for them. Zane Seamer, defensively. Asa Klein still had a double-double for Fairfield Union, but he had a big size advantage, and Seamer really made things a lot more difficult for him. And then Doran Patton was really good as well for Logan Elm. They were overall really good as a team, but I thought those guys really stood out to me. But just going back to Fairfield Union, Asa Klein, 10 points, 10 rebounds. He's only a sophomore. He's going to be an issue for a lot of teams throughout this year. Trevor Utzinger hit a big shot late for them. He didn't really get going scoring-wise until the second half, but he made some big baskets for them as well. I think Fairfield Union is going to win a lot of basketball games this year, and they're going to have a chance. I think they're a well-coached team. They've got a lot of young coaches that have won a lot of basketball games with them in the program that came back and are coaching. I think that's going to make them a really interesting watch because those young coaches are going to get better throughout the year as well, and that's just going to make them ultimately better. So just what are your thoughts, and we haven't even talked about this, on young coaches? So you bring coaches back that have played, had a lot of success. How much do you look at how that player responded to coaching and everything? Do you see them as when they're young? Because, as you get a little bit older, you become a little more mature. But even when you're young, you're just out of playing. How important was that for them to be coachable for whenever they step in as a coach?
It's a must, but I think what happens is when you're young, your energy and your effort will cover up a lot of your other mistakes. A lot of times we think of coaching about it being this scheme or this scouting report or this practice drill, and there's some truth to that. You'll get better and better at your craft as you go, especially if you're a willing learner. But honestly, as a young coach, a lot of times it's that relationship piece. You're able to build that relationship where you're able to relate to the kids really well. You're able to give them a great effort, and that a lot of times can cover up a lot. I think as you get older, your relationship comes in different ways with kids. So I think when you're younger, the relatability is a really, really important piece for coaches and having that connection with the kids.
Yeah, I agree completely. So then we're going to move to our streaming game from last Friday, which was our Kingston National Bank SVC game of the week, our first one of that. Paint Valley at Adena. I thought Paint Valley really competed well in the first half. The third quarter was bad, but then I really liked the effort that they gave in the fourth to at least make Adena sweat a little bit in that game where, in that third quarter, how much of that, them just going minutes without scoring, do you think goes to just kind of their inexperience but also with what Adena was able to do.
Well, let's look at it from two sides. I think one thing I highlighted on the game there that night was this Adena team has some great experience where they've been through a lot of these growing pains a year ago, and now they had come back. So when they went into halftime, I believe they were up 4 maybe at the time, and they were in a situation where they just needed to calm down, and they needed to make sure that they wrapped up defensive possessions with some rebounding. And if they could do that, then they were going to have an opportunity to get out in transition and go a little bit. They had a great size advantage throughout. I highlighted the versatility of Harold and Garrison throughout the night several times, and they did that. So they come right out of the half. Again, good coaching, but good experience. Francis was kind of slowed a little bit in the first half. He got in some foul trouble. They were able to go to him right away, a couple buckets, and then they were off and they were going. Then on the other side, the inexperience shows up in a lot of different ways. Okay, number one, even with an experienced senior like a Jace Reinhardt, who's been really good this year so far, he's just simply playing a role for the first time in his career where he is so needed on the floor, and he has to be able to stay on the floor. And he had a frustration foul earlier in the game. Well, then you top that with a tough call in the third quarter, which I still don't know exactly what the call was. But nonetheless, what happens is the earlier frustration foul catches up with you, and now all of a sudden, Coach Coleman had a decision to make. He tried to buy some time, get him to the bench, and then it just got away from him in the third quarter there. I think it was 18-5 in that third frame, where Paint Valley just had trouble creating easy looks. Then when they did get a good look, they couldn't get it to go down. I thought Adena was terrific in that quarter. They really cleaned up the defensive glass. They started to pick up the intensity on the defensive end, and then they really, really started to roll. So they were mixing the athleticism of Francis in the open court. I thought Metzger made some good decisions in secondary break. Harold and Garrison were terrific throughout the entire evening, and as a result, you look up, and it's 20 now. You go to the fourth quarter, and the thing we talked about all night, if you followed this Paint Valley team, I know what the record says, but the film tells you that, man, they're going to come at you and compete for 32 minutes. And for about 20 to 24 minutes a night, they're going to play at a pretty competitive level. Unfortunately, they're having trouble putting 32 minutes together, and that's what you ended up seeing here. You saw a team throughout the first half had every opportunity to lead that game at halftime. Well, they too messed up some time and score at the end of the quarters. But then go to the fourth quarter, the number one thing with the youth on this team that you have to love if you're Coach Coleman's, man, the kids just won't quit. Remember, this is a team that had come from double digits down to tie the game at Western. They got that game all the way back to 9. And if I remember, 3 quality shooters had looks to get it to 6, and they just couldn't get it to go down. They kept winning extra offensive possessions, and they just couldn't get it to go down. But now I thought there was a lot to like from both sides there. If you're Adena, I thought it really ended up showing that year's growth. And if you're Paint Valley, it's a film that you're going to learn a lot from, and each time you go through that experience, you're going to go. So the senior play of Reinhardt will continue to lead that group. Don't look now, but Eisen started to break out a little bit. They have some shooters. Elliott can shoot it. I thought Kane Scott came off. He actually came off the bench that night and scored double digits. He can play. He can score it. I'm sure he had a couple easy ones in the first half he'd like to have back. But I thought Burke competed hard against Francis. So there's a lot there to like if you're Paint Valley, but as Adena, you like the maturity of the win.
Well, and then you mentioned those Paint Valley kids. A lot of those kids are first-year varsity players, or if they had played, they were maybe in a different role before, as you mentioned with Reinhardt now in a different role as well. So, I mean, it's, it probably is going to be a tough season record-wise, but I think it's going to pay off down the road as well. So just stick with it and just keep battling. But that Adena team, speaking of sticking with it, I mean, 4-20 last year, they've already won 3 games, and I feel like they're on the road to having a really successful season.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they check all the boxes. They're really good defensively. They have size. They have versatility. They have some shooters. Yeah, they're only going to get better. But at the same time, what was so unique about that matchup, if you're Paint Valley, you don't have to look any further than Friday night's opponent just to know that, like, hey, if we stay the course, there's
Yeah.
there's brighter days ahead.
Yeah, and that's definitely a factor in in looking at the future as well. So really excited to have been able to get that game. We appreciate the people out, and Frankfurt made that very easy for us. And then they had the nice SVC celebrations, which, if you haven't seen, is at the beginning of
We put that on there.
Yeah, we put that on there. So if you want to go back and rewatch that, as always, you can go watch all of our live streams back through the archives. Just look them up throughout. If you go to the live tab and then scroll down, you'll see them, or you can even search as well. So now we had some standout performances throughout the week. Now, one of them that we wanted to highlight, we had him on a live stream a little over a week ago, was Meigs' Carson Davis, scoring his 1,000th career point in their win over Wellston, and then he followed that up with a 35-point night in a tight win over Warren. So an outstanding week for Carson Davis.
Well, he's a terrific player. I really enjoyed watching him play that day at Westfall. And even on that day, he didn't shoot it very well,
Right.
but you could still just appreciate his
the
game.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, his ability to defend, his ability to rebound it. He's a willing passer, but he can score in the post. He can get a mid-range shot whenever he wants it. He has great range. So I think it's a game that's going to translate to the next level quite well. Yeah, just a really good player. If you haven't had a chance to see him play, like you said, we have that option for you to go back and watch that Westfall game. But hearing him score 35 in a game doesn't surprise me at all, because he could just accidentally get 20 just because of all the different ways he can score against you. So when he really gets it going one night, I could see where 35-40 is going to be on the table a couple more times this year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that Westfall game, he didn't shoot the ball well, but he impacted the game. He had 7 assists in the game, 15 rebounds. So, I mean, it's just
block shots, change shots, and just
the ability to impact the game, and he's one of those that, we mentioned, a coach's kid. Well, a lot of coaches' kids aren't 6'8", so he definitely has those ball handling skills.
Yeah.
But he can be an extension of the coach on the floor as well. But man, he's got some really nice teammates as well. So
Buechler can shoot it, and that's going to space the floor. They have an outstanding point guard as well,
Tracy.
Tracy, thank you. He's really good. Yeah. So that's a good basketball team. I know they're the defending champion at TVC Ohio, and certainly going to be a tough opponent throughout the year again here in 2025 to 26.
Yes, 100%. So let's stay in the TVC Ohio, because one of the games of the week last week was Vinton County beating Alexander in overtime. And man, what a game. Josh Montgomery, 44 points for Vinton County. 17 of those came in overtime, a 74-65 win over Alexander, but he wasn't the only standout player in that one. Sophomore Jace Cooper for Alexander had 27 points. Just an outstanding game, outstanding game to watch.
Well, it was. I had a chance to go back and watch it, and it's always been a huge rivalry there in the TVC Ohio, and Coach Hill on the Alexander side bringing a young group in and playing extremely hard, had a good game plan. They led the game. I mean, they were literally in control of double-digit leads. They probably controlled it for the first 28 minutes of the night, and then give Coach Kite and his Vikings a lot of credit. They just wouldn't go away. And once they finally got some things going, the crowd got into it, and they just started to spurt a little bit. And Josh Montgomery was terrific. The 44 points, I believe 17 in overtime was all 17 of Vinton County's.
Yes.
That's what they scored as a team. But what I liked about him in that game, John, because he had an okay first half, but what I liked about him the most is I was really watching. This is how I watch games, because I'm just a basketball nerd and stuff. Like, I'll rewind it and watch different, body languages and different. When the game was on the line, there's certain guys that's running away from the ball, and he's running to the moment. Like, he's like, no, I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it was just once one shot went in, you started to see the confidence a little bit, and then he started driving to the hole, and then he could shoot. Really good player, and big comeback win for Vinton County, but a lot to build on for Alexander. Jace Cooper, good player. He's got length, he's got athleticism. Still pretty young, I believe, a sophomore. So I think he's going to fill out in the upper body a little bit more. The stronger he gets, the more he'll be able to absorb, especially the way the game's called today. We talk about it a lot of times when you're playing downhill. Just about every finish at the rim is an and one type of finish.
Right.
If you get the whistle or not. But he's got the ability to step out and shoot it. I was thoroughly impressed. I've seen him play now 3 times this year, and he just gets better every time I turn the film on.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I do think that Alexander team is just going to keep getting better and better. Really good win for Vinton County, though. Protect your home court. And then outstanding performance from Josh Montgomery. So let's stay partially in the TVC. One of the few games that got played on Saturday was Portsmouth beating Southern 67-59. In that game, you mentioned Montgomery not having a great first half. Daquan Woods for Portsmouth had 4 points at the half, ended with 30. 26 points in the second half for the Trojans. Daquan Woods, 2-0 now for Portsmouth. A really good win over Southern. This is a Portsmouth team that is very young. They're just going to keep getting better and better. And sometimes you need those big time performances from players like Woods.
Oh, there's no question about it. That's what separates those elite players every now and then. When the scouting report just goes to the side and you just need a big time player to play big time in big time moments, and it sounds like that's kind of what ended up taking place there.
Yeah,
I know Racing Southern had the outstanding performance there as well.
Yeah, so Reed Branniger for Southern had 25 points in that game. So I mean, it's just they're going to be a team with Andre Chandler as well as Branniger. They're going to be a team that's going to get better and better throughout the year because they're going to kind of come together like a Meigs is, where you have some players go in, some players go out, and you just kind of got to mold as a team. And Southern is just going to get better throughout the year.
No question. Again, it's kind of a modern day sports that's probably a little foreign to me, but it's part of it. You know what I mean? And like you said, there's an adjustment period and roles will change, and that's part of coaching and communication and getting that chemistry together. But that Southern team's still going to be a really, really good team, particularly into the postseason.
Yeah, and then late in the season, we're hoping to get down to Southern to see them face off against the next team, which is that's really I'm excited about how I was able to tie all that together. But Peebles now 3-0 on the season. Maybe the most impressive thing about their 3-0, they really play 7. It's really a 7-man rotation. They put a couple other guys in. All 7 of those guys have scored in double figures at one point over those 3 games.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I was looking at that myself. They beat North Adams there by 20. I think they had 6 guys score between 7 and 15. They were led by Keegan Puckett off the bench that night. And what jumped out at me, John, is when Puckett had 15, he did it on 7 of 11 shooting. So it's an efficiency, and it's a different thing of like if you share the ball and you truly turn down good shots for great shots, now you're really cooking. They scored 90 against Manchester there. They had McClain with 23, Sims 17, Johnson 16, Gross 13, 8 guys with 5 or more. So it's just there's an ability to share the ball and how you go about guarding them. We talked about it with Eastern earlier when you constantly have 3 and 4 guys on the court that on any given night could go 15 to 20 and it wouldn't surprise you. Man, that just becomes so difficult to guard.
Well, and then just going through their team, they have, out of those 7 that have scored in double figures, 6 of them average 8.7 or more per game. So, I mean, they're led by Josh McClain with 17.3 a game, shooting 60% from the field. And then, I don't even want to go through all these numbers because this is ridiculous. Bo Johnson is shooting 67.9%. He's averaging 14 points a game, and he hasn't even shot the ball well from 3 yet, and he's a really good shooter. Yeah. So, I mean, Sims 9.3 on 75% shooting. I mean, it's just – and then, you've got Ryan and Gross, shooting a lowly 47.6%. So, I mean, they're being really efficient, and, from what I've just been told is just, you don't know who it's going to be because they all can do it.
Well, and the assists go up, the turnovers go down because it's not just scoring, it's just playing. Mm-hmm. You don't have to count on one person just to dominate the ball, to handle the ball for you. You can share the ball. You can all dribble, pass, and catch it. obviously they can shoot and score it. So what happens a lot of times, the assists go up, the turnovers go down. You turn down good shots for great shots, and that's just the formula for really high-level offense. And it's going to take a defense that's going to have the ability to just slow them down tempo-wise a little bit and take something away. You're not going to take all of it away, but as time goes on, you're going to scout that team and figure out, okay, what can we take away from them?
Yeah, and I'm going to say at some point this year, Connor Gross is probably going to put up a triple-double because right now averaging 8.7 points, 7.7 assists, only 4.3 rebounds, but every once in a while you might be able to get one of those big rebounding games. But he's averaging 7.7 assists per game, but it's by 8, then 7, then 8. So it's just being consistent. So it's not like he had a huge spike in one game, but he's been very consistent, and that's one of the big reasons why the Indians are off to a 3-0 start. They're going to be a team to really watch. They got a big one on Friday with Fairfield. That's going to be one of those games to watch that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes as well. So let's jump to our games of the week. Now, one of the things we talked about yesterday was we were going to come in at 3 o'clock yesterday. I had to run in town, do a couple things at 3:30, and we're like, man, it's going to be cold. It's going to be kind of dangerous to drive back at night. Let's push this back to Tuesday morning. Well, thankfully we did, because one of the games that we were going to talk about was going to be Jackson at Miami Trace. Well, that's not this week anymore. Guess what we're going to talk about next week on Overtime presented by Perfection One? Jackson at Miami Trace, because it got moved back to next Tuesday. So we're still going to talk Miami Trace because they've got a huge one coming up on Friday at Chillicothe, an improved Chillicothe team. You saw the games last year, especially the game at Chillicothe was a game that I believe you said was really a game that Chillicothe maybe was a year too young to win, but I think being a year older, that's going to make this one a must-watch in the FAC.
No, there's no question about it. We talked about it in our preview show a couple weeks back there on the boys' side where Miami Trace Jackson's still going to be a standard that people are chasing, but this Chillicothe team is knocking on the door in a hurry, and they have a lot of pieces, and I'm sure they're anxious to prove that they belong up there. And you go back to last year, the game over at Miami Trace, Chillicothe played really, really well, got in the second half with a chance, and then Miami Trace was just a little too much. The game at Chillicothe all but forfeited in the final seconds. I don't know another way to say it. They had opportunities to put the game away. They couldn't handle the basketball, and then Miami Trace ended up making some key plays, key shots. But no, this will be an unbelievable atmosphere. Chillicothe has the size and athleticism just to kind of contain Guthrie in that front line of Miami Trace. And then if the guards for Chillicothe can really get it going and produce from the perimeter, Chillicothe's got a chance this year to really close that gap.
Yep, I agree completely. Now, Noah Netter and Adam Guthrie is going to be a big-time matchup because we've seen Guthrie be able to get other bigs in foul trouble early.
Yeah.
And while Chillicothe has some more size, they don't have the length as well as what Netter is able to do to protect the rim. So if he can get them in foul trouble early, that can make a big-time difference in this game. Or if Netter can stay out of foul trouble, that can make a big-time difference in this game as well, because I think he's going to be one of those guys. Maybe his offensive impact isn't going to be there as much, but what he's able to do defensively is huge for this Chillicothe team.
Guthrie's an impossible matchup from the standpoint of game plan. Yeah. I've seen some teams go in and say, all right, we're going to take everything else away and we're going to just let him kind of go. Well, he'll go for like 35 points, 20 rebounds if you're not careful. Okay, we're going to double him. We're going to do this. Well, then he's so good and he's so efficient around the rim. He still gets his 20, but before you know it, he has 8 or 9 assists. So you really have to pick and choose how you're going to guard him, where the help's going to come from, and then you got to be really strategic in terms of who you're leaving, or before you know it, you let Miami Trace click on everything instead of just a few things. But he's the centerpiece of it all, and he's really, really good. He has some incredible feet down low. If you're an old school post-play type of a person that really loves that, man, the game's missing that back to the basket. Yeah. You'll love this kid because his feet, they're just outstanding.
And he passes so well from if you try to double or triple him, he's going to find the open shooter. And then Miami Trace has enough guys that can shoot it.
They do.
That really, as you mentioned, makes them a very difficult defensive matchup. This one should be
Now
fun.
help me on this, because they graduated some length on the outside. So sometimes I can't tell on film. I don't know if you've had a chance to see him in person. I don't think you have.
Not yet.
Do you anticipate Miami Trace being as long across their starting lineup as they were a year ago?
I don't think so, but I do think they're going to be similarly athletic.
Okay.
And maybe you don't have 6'4" with like length.
Yeah, because there's times when I was calling a game on floor level last year, it seemed like they were playing with 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like
it was that first game. Unioto goes up to Miami Trace, and like we knew what Guthrie and we knew Baker was going to be there, and then we see like Robinette and then Sayers are just like
yes,
like
those two were
like they had
huge,
like 6'8" wingspans,
yeah.
And it wasn't they're 6'4" and could shoot it, and then you throw Guthrie in, and it's like so it made Unioto look like they were tiny, and they weren't small, but it looked like it that night. It was just because how big those guys were with their length and athleticism. And
so there's still an elite level of quickness and
Yes.
athleticism around him as you start to think of some of that personnel.
Yeah, they're still going to have some really nice pieces to have an outstanding season again this year. And but the FAC is loaded because it's McClain, Hillsboro, Washington Courthouse, if you sleep on them, are going to be able to get you any night. But, man, Chillicothe and Jackson are going to be really good as well. But I do think Miami Trace probably is at the top of that. But this is their first really big test on the road at Chillicothe on Friday night. So you can listen to our own Dewey Daly calling the game on WBX. I'm sure there's going to be some live streaming options for that one as well over at Chillicothe at the Hatton Gymnasium, so that one should be a really fun matchup. The only thing for me on Chillicothe is the ability to consistently score, but their defense has been so good so far that they haven't had to put up those big-time scoring numbers. But, I mean, they had 14 in the first half against McClain the other day. They had a big second half, but just need a little more consistency from them offensively because Caden Cox can really do it. Hammond and Stone King can as well, but can they just find a little more consistency?
The FAC matchups had a way last year of getting stuck in the half court, particularly through the first 2.5, 3 quarters. Some tempos got a little bit slower, scores got a little bit lower, and I thought that's where sometimes Miami Trace's ability to score easy is what separated themselves. So it's funny you say that. Can Chillicothe use some of that defense maybe to create easy opportunities? I agree. I would like to see Chillicothe find a way to play with just a hair more tempo sometimes. And I think they could separate a lot of teams just because of their ability to kind of get up and down the court and score the basketball.
Yeah, it should be a really fun game to watch for sure. So next we're going to jump to our Kingston National Bank SVC Game of the Week, which is going to be Unioto at Zane Trace. A really big-time matchup. Unioto unbeaten so far in SVC play. They got a big one on Tuesday with Huntington. But Zane Trace, man, I ignore the really tight game at Adena. Adena is a really good team. If you're trying to compare scores, don't do that because this is a Zane Trace team that is just going to get better and better throughout each game. What can you tell me about this game?
What I really like about Zane Trace is their growth athletically and in the toughness categories. A year ago, I thought it really started to come on the second half of the year. I thought they really started to find themselves a little bit in the 50-50 balls on the glass, doing some things from a physicality standpoint. And it's really carried over into this year. There's a toughness element that they bring. Obviously, with McCall and Stewart, they have two elite players. As good a 1-2 tandem as we have in our coverage area when it comes to just athleticism and production. I mentioned Barry earlier when we talked about point guards. Really like the floor general there. But John, I think what really jumps out at me is their growth athletically and the toughness where they get some extra guys out, and I'll let you talk about some individuals as well. but what they're bringing to them is the ability to match up with different types of players. They're competing a little bit more in the physicality categories, and I think that's what's really going to allow them to take that next step forward that maybe they struggled in certain matchups with a year ago.
Yeah, I agree with that completely because, I mean, you have some really nice players as well. So you have like a Kaiser who hit a huge shot against Adena, Stewart that give them some length. But then you throw in a Hudson Williams, Bryce Johnson.
Those guys are very, very important.
That's where you throw that physicality in there as well, because when you see Bryce Johnson out on the floor, you're like, ooh, this dude. And then he can move. He's very unselfish as well. So I think where both of those guys have not played for a couple of years, I think they're just like, hey, we just want to be a part of it. And that's made a huge difference for them on the winning side of things so far, where I think we're kind of wondering, is there going to be a third guy? Well, right now it's Roman Berry. He's done a really good job for them because you knew what Stewart and McCullough could do. But with the toughness that, Johnson, Williams bring, can you mix in with, the shooting that a Kaiser and a Stewart can bring as well? So, I mean, it's a really nice mix for them overall to give them a variety of different guys that can really impact a game.
It's really big, and in this particular matchup, I think a lot of it's going to come down to Zane Trace's ability to take care of the basketball. This Unioto team, they can come at you defensively really just at an unreal aggressiveness and tempo, and with the depth and the athleticism. And I made the comment early in the year that I thought this was a good time to try to get Unioto. This is a team that, through graduation and injury, only returned one starter. And they too have a lot of guys stepping into new roles and playing and blossoming. Very, very talented kids, but going in. So the ability for Zane Trace to handle the basketball against whatever type of pressure Unioto is going to throw at them, that's going to be a big stat, a big factor in their ability to be successful in this game. And then on the Unioto side, on that same line, they've slowly but surely been starting to find their basketball legs, and slowly but surely starting to shoot the ball a little bit better. I think that's a big thing to watch. Can Unioto use their versatility and their overall guard play and that depth to share the basketball and get good looks? Because I'm anxious to see if Zane Trace can take away some of Unioto's easy points and force them to find more ways to execute the score. Because what I mean by that is sometimes Unioto can just, engulf their opponent from an offensive rebound or a turnover, out in transition, go lay it in type of thing. If Zane Trace can take that away and force Unioto to execute in the half court a little bit, I think Zane Trace is one of the teams that really have the athleticism to match up with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, for Unioto, obviously you have the returning SVC Player of the Year in Blake Fitch, who's just outstanding. He does a great job, scores at all three levels, and you don't want to foul him late because he's very, very efficient at the free throw line. He led the state of Ohio as a sophomore in free throw shooting. So I mean, that's not a lot of guys get to do that each year. Yeah. I would think it's one. So it's so if you lead the state in anything, that's a good thing. So he's very efficient. And then you have Jack Welch, who just keeps getting better and better, more confident each game throughout. Case Patterson, Caden Patterson just keeps getting better, and he gets healthier throughout as well. And then we've seen Isaac Coy. I think he was 3 for 3 from 3 the other day. But man, the growth of Dawson Mitchell has been unreal in importance for this Unioto team, because it just gives them an extra layer. A 6'8", not everybody has a 6'8" that can block shots, and it doesn't need the ball, but when he gets the ball, he can score it. And with what he's able to do, off the ball, if you try to sell out to block block one of these guards getting to the basket, well, they can just kick it off to him, and he's going to make the layup. and then he can also stretch the floor a little bit. I think his growth has been very important for this team.
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. His production's been really, really good, and I think he anchors some of that. You know, a lot of times you think, okay, when he's in the game, they won't be able to pressure. That hasn't really been true at all. You know, he's been able to really protect the rim and change some shots, block some shots. But then the healthier they get, what I notice is they're starting to get some of that versatility. I think just like we mentioned how good a football player was, I've always thought David Long's such a valuable member of that basketball team. You know, if he plays 5 minutes or if he plays 20 minutes, what he brings to the court's a physicality. He can guard a lot of different types of kids. Then they've called on some young kids that can really, really pressure the basketball too. So especially while they're without Zikafus right now, I think some of these young kids with Harsha and Langhoff coming in the game and just offering some of those different things, been really, really valuable. So, yeah, I think it's a great matchup both ways. You're going to have athletes all over the floor. Obviously, you never have to question the atmosphere, the intensity that's going to take place when those two schools get together. And it should be an incredible thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it should be a really fun matchup for sure on Friday night. So once again, our Kingston National Bank SVC game of the week. Now, for St. Trace fans, if you're watching in, you're watching this before Friday. On Wednesday night, we're going to start off the Haynes-Toll Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show with Gunnar McCullough and Hudson Williams here in the Chillicothe Sports Cards studio to start off our episode on Wednesday night. They were supposed to come in on Friday or Sunday.
Yeah.
We weren't doing that for as far as having the kids drive in for that. So they'll be our first in-studio guests here in the Chillicothe Sports Cards studio. So.
Yeah, I love that you guys are including some of the kids throughout the area in that. I really, really enjoy listening to the coaches. But when you get a chance to hear from the kids, I think it's just a great leadership and growth opportunity for them as well.
Yeah, and it should be fun. And, we're not going to just talk basketball because, Hudson Williams did win the state pole vault. So I'm going to make him explain that whole thing to me because I don't know how that works. Like, it's ridiculous to me. Like, it's, and I know I think it was like 2 of the top 5 in the state were from the SVC. So it's pretty cool. So looking forward to talking to those guys. So also this week, so some of these games are going to be on Tuesday, which you may have already about as if you're watching this later than Tuesday, but some of the games to watch this week. So on Tuesday, you've got 6-1 Huntington at a 4-0 Unioto. Frankie Hirsch is going to have a chance to be one of the better players on the court. That should be a fun matchup.
Huntington's a really dangerous team. Remember, I was telling people to calm down about them a couple weeks back, and they're starting to show a little bit. What we talk about, the versatility makes you a little deeper than you think. So you watch Huntington play, and you're like, well, they're only playing 6. Well, so many different guys can do so many different things that it kind of starting to take shape. I think Baker's played some of his best games over the last couple. Had a chance to watch them play Alexander, and then I've had a chance to watch them play Westfall. They're starting to click. They're starting to find themselves. Certainly be a bad idea for Unioto to be peeking ahead to Friday night. I'm sure a 6-1 Huntington team will have their full attention for sure.
Yes, 100%. So Huntington won 8 games a year ago, is already at 6 wins this season. So great start for them. Northwest at Waverly on Tuesday. We talked about it a little bit last week. It's moved from last Tuesday to this Tuesday. Now, kind of a concerning one for Northwest was that Piketon kind of had their way with them on Saturday. So I think this one still is interesting. I do think this one has a chance to be an interesting one. But for Northwest, this is a chance in a big way to get right.
League matchups usually have a different way. It's kind of like that Vinton County-Alexander matchup we were talking about. Yeah. Conference rivalries and different teams know each other. Kids know each other. Not always, but just a lot of times you see some non-league matchups and you see a score and you're like, okay, maybe that team's not as good or whatever. And then 2 nights later, they're in a conference overtime game or whatever. Conference matchups just have a different feel to them.
Yep, and then Northwest usually has a way of finding ways to compete in those games. So look for that one. That will be an interesting one. I know that there will be a live stream for that. Another one there should be a live stream for South Webster at Eastern Pike. Eastern Pike's only played once, but man, these are 2 teams that are going to have a chance to make big time tournament runs and have a huge early season matchup.
Well, again, no matter what conference or division of a conference you're in, these kids grow up playing each other. They know each other. There's rivalries. There's different feels there. And I just think that stuff matters. We talked about scouting report earlier. That you're familiar. You just know a little bit more what to expect going in, and usually that makes for some really just an extra notch of intensity and atmosphere.
Yes, 100% agree. So look for that one. And then I'm not sure about a live stream for this, but Fairfield Union at Circleville. Circleville had a 60-47 loss to Hamilton Township, but I would not compare those scores at all because I think that Hamilton Township is a little bit closer to what we expected than what Fairfield Union beat by 30 the week before. Fairfield Union, a really good team, but this is a must-win for them in the MSL.
Sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And I think you're talking about that with Hamilton. Remember on our preview show, we thought one thing, and then a couple scores earlier is like, do we have that way off? And then there's another score. Okay, maybe we're closer than we thought. So you're right. There's just not a lot of wiggle. There's a big difference, John, in terms of, hey, we want to have a nice season or we want to win our conference. Mm-hmm. Like when you want to win your conference, you usually have maybe one opportunity to slip up. That's about it.
Yep.
and you have to be near perfect. So that's the difference between, hey, we're pretty good or we're championship level.
Right. Well, and especially in a league that has one or two less league games as well. So
good point.
You have even less wiggle room as far as that goes. So that's Tuesday. I mean, there's definitely more to look for, but these are the ones I was just clicking on pretty quickly. Wednesday, there's an interesting one. Vinton County at Eastern Meigs. Eastern really put it on Sims Valley on Saturday. It seems like after a really tough start, they seemingly are getting their legs under them.
Yeah, they are. And then the Vinton County team, again, they have some pieces around the perimeter. I don't think they're shooting it quite as well as I think they're capable of as they get going. A lot of times that's normal early in the year. Defense gets a little ahead of offense, and as they settle into it, I think if Vinton County can just clean up a little bit of their execution, I still think there's one or two guys there that could give Coach Kite a lot more offense. That'll be something I'm really watching for there. I'd like to see a third and fourth Viking get into the scoring act a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree completely. So now let's jump over to Thursday. That one of my, I wouldn't say favorite things right now is the fact that certain leagues are playing on Mondays and Thursdays, but that gives us some games on Thursday.
I'd say you might be enjoying that more than others.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
No, I'm saying like in those conferences. I know what you're saying. Yeah. I love it because it feels like for we basketball nerds, we have something every night.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm getting the same feedback as I talk to people in those conferences.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So Thursday, you got Portsmouth at Rock Hill. That one, I think, has an opportunity to be really interesting because that Rock Hill team, pretty young, has some really good guards. But this Portsmouth team, I think, is on the rise after a couple of tough seasons.
Sounds like it. You were highlighting some numbers there earlier that were real impressive. So great opportunity for Rock Hill playing at home. But at the same time, Portsmouth trying to take that type of step, checking off those road wins and league play there. Those are big.
Yes. And then speaking of the OVC, Gaia Academy at Fairland. Fairland off to a 2-0 start with some really good wins. I just wonder if the weather has played some havoc with them because, with getting those two really good road wins to start, and then you got to just wait, see if they can keep up their consistency in their home opener when they host Gaia Academy on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm anxious to learn a little bit more. Certain teams have played 7 times, certain teams 2 or 3, and it's once the weather calms down a little bit here and games start to get played, you'll get a better picture of it. But sometimes you can get a little deceived early on when teams haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to play.
Yeah, so that's why really looking forward to that one because it seems like Gaia's been playing pretty well. Really played a really good Waverly team tight last week, but. Yeah, then we'll see Gaia in person next Monday. So we'll talk about that a little bit when we go our live streaming stuff here, I would say in like 3 minutes. So, and then one more on Thursday, Meigs at Nelsonville, York. Now, Nelsonville, I was really high on them, and Alexander really took care of business against them last week. But I do think Nelsonville is a tough place to play. can Meigs keep rolling after a little bit of a slow start? But last weekend, it seemed like they kind of figured some stuff out.
Remember what I just said about not who you're playing, it's when you play them.
Mm-hmm.
Great opportunity for Alexander to go play Nelsonville early.
Yeah.
Because so many of those kids from out of football early on. Now, don't take anything away from Alexander. They went in there and took care of business, but that's the point I'm making. Evaluate this team if you need to right now, but you'll be better off of waiting to evaluate this Nelsonville team more into January.
Yes, I agree completely. So before we get to the Friday games, a couple things this weekend. Ironton Classic down at Ironton will be Friday and Saturday. There's some schedules out that you can see. Ironton will open, I think they might open their season tonight, but I know that they've got a couple of games this weekend. I believe they got South Webster on Saturday. So I think that would be the big one there. So take a look there. I know Fairland will be playing there. There's a couple more local teams as well. A lot of high-level teams coming from out of state for that as well. So it's always a really well-ran event down at Ironton. So that's going to be on Friday and Saturday. Saturday also at Logan, the Holiday Hoopla Classic. Alexander, I know, plays in that. Hillsboro is playing in it as well. So, I mean, there's some good matchups over there. I think Hillsboro and Warren is the matchup over there. So that'll be on Saturday over at Logan. So get out and watch those games over there. Logan always does an outstanding job of running all of their events as well. So, but going back to Friday night, a couple of big ones will start. Technically a non-league matchup, but it's between SOC teams. Lucasville Valley at Eastern Pike, I think, has got the opportunity to be a really fun one.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. And I like how you said that because, again, I know technically they're not, the division games.
Yeah.
They're just teams that know each other well. They're rivalries that go way back. And those are two interesting teams. And I think two teams maybe trying to I don't know if this is fair or not, that maybe still have a little chip on their shoulder. Maybe people are still questioning just how good they can be. And I think that's the type of game that someone could really separate themselves and get a good win that could go a long way in the tournament draw later in the year.
Yep, completely agree. That'll be a fun one to watch as well. And then Big Shack game, Fairfield at Peebles. For Fairfield, I don't want to say it's a must-win because, you get them twice, but you've started with 2 losses in the league. You're playing a Peebles team that's off to a great start. This is a big-time game for Fairfield.
The depth of Peebles really worries me here, similar to what we saw with Eastern.
Yes.
For Fairfield, they're going to have to slow them down a little bit. But again, as the year goes on, Fairfield has got to be able to find that third and fourth guy, and a lot of that might just be staying out of foul trouble and staying on the floor because I understand if you're Fairfield, you certainly don't want to lose that intensity on the defensive end. But, man, you got to be smart, and you can't afford to give 8, 9, 10 minutes away due to foul trouble in terms of minutes per night, or you're just going to have trouble competing with the depth that we highlighted earlier in the show about Peebles.
Yep, completely agree. Now we're going to hit a couple things real quick. So speaking of hitting, we didn't have one this week, but this week's, we typically do a Perfection 1 collision of the week. This week we didn't have one, just for the kind of shortened schedule and everything. But, we appreciate Perfection 1 always sponsoring our show. And remember that you can find Perfection 1 in Pickaway, Pike, and Ross counties. And there you will find why they are highly recommended. So we thank Perfection 1.
Absolutely.
But this week we've got 3 opportunities to pick up a Perfection 1 collision of the game. Because when you look at our live streaming schedule, as always, our live streams are presented by Ohio Health and a bevy of other sponsors that we really appreciate. So Tuesday night, more than likely you're going to be watching this after that game.
Yep. But
Tuesday night, Fairland at Portsmouth girls. We'll do a little bit of a preview for it coming up in our next segment, but a rematch of 2 OVC rivals that met in last year's state semifinal game. Should be a really fun one down in Portsmouth. Carson and myself will have that one on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm anxious to I've got some requirements out at school this evening. I'm anxious to get back where it's warm and turn you guys on and watch what should be really, really fun matchup.
Yeah, it should be a fun one for sure. So then Thursday, speaking of a fun one, this one will be we both have requirements, so we are not going to be there, but hopefully we'll be able to watch it afterwards. A big one in girls basketball in the SOC 3, Portsmouth West at Minford on Thursday night. Carson and Kenneth will have that one along with a celebrity filmer for that game.
Wow, I'm anxious.
I don't know which one it is yet, but I know it's.
Well, now you got me curious.
Yeah. So
I'm excited that we're going to start to be able to get out and get some different parts of our coverage area. You know what I mean? And what that does, that allows you to see it. You read things, you try to follow as many things. You and I are constantly all over the internet looking, but when you get a chance to actually see it on the film, that's when it's really nice. So I'm anxious to see all four of these teams play here on the Tuesday, Thursday coverage.
Yeah, and we are trying to get all over our coverage area. We'll see a lot more of it in January as well. But we do have a big one in the SVC, as we talked about already. Friday from Zane Trace, our Kingston National Bank SVC Game of the Week, Unioto at Zane Trace. That'll be on Friday. We already previewed it, but it should be a really fun one.
It always is. When those two schools get together and anything, they could sit down and play some checkers, and it would probably have some intensity to it. It's just the way that rivalry works. And this year, just like just about every year, is going to have a lot to say about who's sitting there at the top of the league, and this year will be no different for sure.
Yes, 100% agree. So, as I mentioned, check out our live streams presented by presented by Ohio Health. You are watching Overtime presented by Perfection One. And just overall, support all of our sponsors because they're supporting all of the athletes in our area as well. We do welcome we welcome you into the Chillicothe Sports Cards studio. So another one of our newer sponsors. And then next Monday, when we're down at Guy Academy, which, we'll have Coldgrove at Guy Academy South Point at Guy Academy next Monday. So in case you don't watch next week's Overtime presented by Perfection One, you'll know that we are down at Guy Academy on Monday for a boys game. So that's going to be on the 22nd. Wanted to mention that as well. And we just picked up The Root as one of our sponsors as well down in Gallipolis. So we appreciate all of them as well. So we're going to jump over to girls basketball, where we had a couple of big time accomplishments, as well as we got some standout performances and then a couple of really big games this week that we are going to preview as well. But our first big accomplishment, North Adams head coach Rob Davis earns his 400th career victory.
Yeah, outstanding. Congrats, Coach. Again, over the years, watched him coached against him some. Just his teams are always so well prepared, so good. But, the longer I do this, John, more than the number of wins, it's the number of years. It's the service time and the amount of kids that someone like a Coach Davis impacts. That's what really starts to hit me harder than even the winning basketball, is just the longevity and the consistency.
Yes, longevity and consistency is right. You see that a lot in the Shack. Coach Davis has done a great job for a long time. He's got to a couple of Elite Eights and has been, done a whole lot of winning, but as you mentioned, impacted a whole lot more lives than just the wins and losses, which the wins are very nice to have as well. So I'm sure the people at North Adams will tell you they appreciate everything he's done for that program. I know there's a lot of family involved in that as well. And whenever you're going to see Coach Davis's teams, that they're going to be well prepared and they're going to play really hard, and it's going to be a fun game.
Oh, no question. With the likes of Burns and Pistol this year, I would say he's going to be well on his way to 500.
Yes, so he's gonna win himself a whole lot of basketball games. So now let's jump to a individual accomplishment as far as a player goes. So River Valley's Hayley Edwards, only a junior, scores her 1,000th career point on Wednesday in a matchup against Athens.
Yeah, that's exciting. It was something I noticed over this past week and wanted to highlight it and just exciting when you do it only a junior because obviously we're early enough in the junior year. You're starting to look at a possibility of quite an impressive number before that young lady's done.
Yeah, so she's been outstanding there. 4-3 on the season, only a 5'4" junior, as we mentioned. So congratulations to her. Not the easiest of accomplishments, no matter what anyone says, especially as a junior. And that's one of the things. Like whenever we talk about 1,000 points. You always have to look at, how many games are they doing it in? Because I know people are like, oh, they got more games now. Well, sometimes kids aren't playing until they're sophomores. Or if you're doing it as a junior, you still are doing it in 2.5 years. So, I mean, just an outstanding accomplishment for her.
Well, this early in her junior year, even if she's played from day one, you're talking about, 50 games max, probably.
Right.
52 maybe, somewhere in there.
So, yeah, it's been an outstanding start to her career, and I'm sure it'll carry over for the Raiders as well in the TVC Ohio, a really a deeper league than it has been over the last few years. And one of the things, when you look at that, we talk about our standout performances a little bit, but Athens with a 51-41 win over Alexander in TVC Ohio play last week.
Well, but a huge win for Coach Skinner and the Lady Bulldogs there. Obviously, Alexander is going to be a big-time contender in that conference with their guard play. We highlighted that on our girls' show, but we also talked about Athens and their experience and their ability to guard, and particularly guard the perimeter with their ball pressure. And to hold Alexander to 41 on that night, that's getting it done against that level of guard play. So congratulations, Athens. That's a big win here early in the year. Remember, we talked on the girls' show about if they're able to check a couple boxes here earlier in the year, that Athens was going to be opening their Christmas presents in top of the league. And if they do that, they're going to be tough to catch second half of the year.
Yeah, 100%. But, I mean, we talked about River Valley already. Nelsonville typically solid. Alexander is a very good team, and then Vinton County's got a chance to shake some things up in the TVC Ohio as well. So I think it's a league that has a little bit more depth, and because of that, it's going to make those teams a little more successful in the postseason as well.
Yeah,
seems like
Meigs try to get some film and see a little bit more of the TVC Ohio on the girls' side, because I agree with you in terms of it offering just a little bit more depth than the past. It still may be top heavy in terms of standings, but I do think the overall play has a little bit more depth to it.
Yes, it seems like Meigs is much improved from a year ago as well. So that's always a big time positive to see after a really tough season a year ago. So let's go from the TVC. Let's jump over to the Shack. So if you were able to watch Good Guys TV radio, they had Peebles and Lynchburg this week. Matchup 45 all. Peebles gets an inbound into Alyssa Smalley in the corner, and she's kind of just swarmed and puts a shot up, in the closing seconds and buries a triple for a game-winning shot for the Indians for a big 48-45 win last Monday over Lynchburg Clay.
And we talk about time and score, and we talk about how many different times that teams don't even get a shot off. That's the importance of getting a shot up, because it might go in.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen if you get a shot up, because a lot of times you saw it South Carolina men. You don't see it on the South Carolina women's side very often, because I don't know how many times they're even in time and score. But their men dribbled down for a game-winning shot, had like 7 seconds, and passed it with less than a second left, because they didn't get into a time and score situation in the right way and never got a shot off, and they end up losing in overtime. So, I mean, it is a huge play to just get something up, and that's why Smalley's shot was so important for Peebles. You can go back and watch that over there on their YouTube page. So, speaking of games that were over on their YouTube page, man, this one was one I don't think we saw coming. We've talked about Fayetteville being really good, but a 72-35 win over White Oak last week for the Rockets. They're off to an outstanding start. Lily Collier went 9 for 11 in the game, 21 points, and then Kara Rummel, 13.7 rebounds and 6 assists in that dominating win over White Oak.
Well, it's the efficiency that jumps out at you there, the 9 for 11. That's impressive. John, you talked about a lot of these girls in the fall at that particular school. and the athleticism and how impressed you were with them. And I think it's starting to translate over into the winter. And that's an impressive score. It's almost like an easy 72 that they're posting there.
Yeah, they had 8 players score in that game, and Christina Murphy also had 16 in that on 6 of 11 with 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Aubrey Barber had 12 points, 7 assists, 6 steals. I mean, they're just, and that's not even mentioning a Lindy Carler who is averaging 12.8 points a game this year. She had 3 in the game. I mean, they're a team that they have the depth, and that makes them really difficult to, when all of those depth pieces are scoring, man, that makes them a really tough matchup.
There's no question about it, and they're going to be able to come at you in so many different ways. That's going to be a fun group to follow the rest of the year.
Yeah, and then for White Oak, it's frustrating because you want to really go out and compete really hard every night. They're still 2-1.
Yep.
Kyra Boyd is still averaging over 25 points a game. She had 22 on the night. Just didn't get a whole lot of help for her on that night. So head up for White Oak. But, man, that Fayetteville team is going to be a really fun one to follow throughout this season.
Yeah, I had a chance to see White Oak on film earlier this week, and I think that's probably what impressed me more than anything about Fayetteville was not that they beat them, but that they beat them by that much. Because, again, I think White Oak's a team that's got every opportunity to win as many as they lose.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really good team over at White Oak. But, man, Fayetteville is going to be one. We're going to get them on live stream in January as well. So look forward to seeing them in person. Yeah. So then let's jump to another night of an afternoon of shooting because they moved the game up. Unioto with a big-time win over Westfall, led by Kiara Beard. She knocked down 8 triples in the win for the Shermans. She is, I believe, a hair under 50% for the season. I think she's 21 of 43 from 3 on the year. She's been outstanding for them. And then, of course, Miley Smith has just an easy 23 and 10 assists in the game as well.
Well, it's just a very unselfish performance. They kind of let Beard get going, and once she did, they really started running some stuff for her and sharing it and finding her in transition. She shot it really well on her way to 30 that day. It's funny you mentioned that percentage. Probably some of those came there in the fourth quarter. She's trying to force some up. Coach Miller was trying to give her an opportunity, I think, to break the record. Didn't work out, and they got her out of there. But, she was in really good rhythm. And when you're playing with someone like Smith, you're going to get an opportunity to run to the three-point line and get the feet set. And then Coach Miller runs some real nice stuff in the half court that they get her some good looks too. So, yeah, she's one of those pure shooters where every time the ball comes out of her hand, it looks like it might go in.
Yeah, they had a really dominating week with a really impressive win over Piketon as well. But in that game over Westfall, Magnolia Holbert with 13 points, she started to really get going. And really, as crazy as it sounds, they lose that game to Bishop Hartley, but Miley Smith gets hurt. So then some other players had to step up, and it seems like Holbert has really gotten going since she had to step up in that game. Maybe got a little bit more confidence coming. It has that 3 straight games in double figures for her.
Oh, I think there's some truth to that. I think sometimes when you go through injuries or go through different things, you have no choice but to start to find your shot or to try to at least seek your shot a little bit. Some confidence can grow from that. So yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, then Charlotte Dennis with 10 points in that game as well. So for Unioto 5-1, Miley Smith now up to 12th in SVC history as far as career scoring goes. And then Kiara Beard, as we mentioned, she tied a Unioto record with the 8 made 3. She ties Aubrey Eblin, which I think anytime you can mention a player who, scores 14 points in a national championship game at the Division I level, if you can tie her in something in high school, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Aubrey and I went to school together. With an amazing shooter, guy or girl. There hasn't been very many in the history of this area to shoot it better. I went on to play at Old Dominion, as you said, played in the national championship there, and played on some outstanding, played in the Final Four for Coach Driggs at Unioto. Terrific player. And Beard. Something tells me, with the tempo they play and the way she shoots, shoots it. That may not be the last time that young lady flirts with some of those 3-point records.
Yeah, she's been outstanding for them. So keep an eye out on Kara Beard as well as that entire Unioto team because, obviously you get a player going to Dayton can really play, so they are a team to watch for sure. So let's jump over to our games of the week. First off, we'll start into one of our streaming games this week, which will be Fairland at Portsmouth on Tuesday night. Now, we were going to try to get Portsmouth on Saturday. Now, that game has gotten moved to February with Mount Notre Dame. We are going to keep that date as attempting to get down and streaming that one. But we are for sure going to be there Tuesday night, Fairland at Portsmouth, a rematch of last year's Division 5 state semifinal that was played at the Convo. A really cool opportunity there for the girls to play that. But then Portsmouth obviously wins that, and then they win the next one to win their first ever state championship. So this one has a whole lot of implications in how the OVC is going to play out.
Well, I don't think there's any question because, again, even with a little bit of depth in proving how many different teams can beat these particular teams. You know what I'm saying? So the head-to-head becomes, crucial. And really, as a basketball person, it's just a fun opportunity to, go down there and you guys call the game, and I'm looking forward to watching it. And obviously, there's a lot to earn from winning the game because you said from the conference standpoint, but in terms of the long run, losing the game doesn't mean you still can't go on, as these two teams proved a year ago, to go on and accomplish some great things.
Yeah, so two outstanding teams. You have Sienna Allen that's going to go play at OU. She's been all Ohio her entire career. She's outstanding for Portsmouth. Haven Carter will be back. Kiki Woods is just a demon defensively. We've said that like in the kindest way of that's you hear some people say someone's a dog. I love to throw the demon thing out of like if you walk out on the court and like a Kiki Woods just like points at you as like that's my person I'm guarding. You're just going, this isn't going to be fun.
It's going to be a long 32 minutes for you.
Yeah, so just one of those kids that you don't want to be guarded by because of the energy they're going to bring, and then they do it completely the right way as well. So, KK Meigs is another one for them. They're a team. Portsmouth is an outstanding team. They're going to have an excellent chance to repeat as state champions. Coach Hughes does an outstanding job for them. But a team that's going to be in front of them is going to be Coach Buchanan's Fairland Dragons because, man, they are loaded with seniors. Addison Godby is going to go. She's going to be a Hatter at Stetson next year. Going to go play at the Division I level. She's averaging 13.3 points. 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 steals, 2 blocks a game. She just does a little bit of everything. And these are numbers that are probably coming, like Portsmouth's numbers, are going to be really impacted by the running clock and then just the score differentials as well that they're putting on teams is unbelievable. But then you got Bailey Russell averaging nearly 21 points a game. She's going to be the all-time leading scorer in Fairland history, which –
that's enough said.
Yeah, and she's probably going to do it about halfway through the season. So, I mean, that just shows how outstanding of a scorer she's been throughout her career. Issa Telefero is averaging almost 14 points a game. She dealt with a lot of injuries early on, and it seems like she is fully back healthy as she's been an impact player for them over the past few years, but I know has dealt with a lot of injuries as well. And then Addison Cornell averaging 10.5 points a game, 5 rebounds a game as well. So, I mean, those are 4 seniors. Then Tegan Leap averaging around 4 points a game is a very solid player as well. Riley Russell averaging 8.3 points a game, only a freshman for this Fairland team. Lola Donahue averaging 6 points a game. I mean, when you mix in a really talented senior group like Fairland has, and then you've got a really talented freshman group, that's going to make them a really fun matchup. And as Coach Buchanan said on the Coach's Call-In show last week, he just wishes these kids would get to play together more than 1 year, but he's excited that they at least get that year together.
Well, it's kind of the way programs like that work.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Fairland Fairland hasn't been good because they had one good class come through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those where, like, okay, here's the next group coming through, and they're just going to pass the baton on, and then just the winning's going to keep on keeping on.
Yep, and completely agree with that. So Bailey Russell shooting 45% from three on the year. So she's going to be probably at the top of that scouting report, but man, they've got some really good depth, and I think a little bit more depth than they had a year ago, and that's going to make them a really tough matchup. So speaking of tough matchups, we're going to jump over to Minford. Minford starting off 4-0 after they graduated. One of the better classes that they've had winning wise in program history. They get to the regional championship game last year, and you really return Kerrigan Davis is about it. But man, 4-0 start. You can't say much more about Coach Miller's group.
Well, but it goes back to culture. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. You know, you're around that winning. You utilize some JV time. You utilize practice time, practicing with these kids. Kids come in and they're playing some real abbreviated roles. Now they're going to get bigger roles, and that's the foundation piece that we're talking about. The winning breeds more winning, and that's exciting for them. That's one that. I don't want to speak for you. That's one I didn't have highlighted on my early SOC schedule. All of a sudden, that's a huge game Thursday night.
Yeah, that was, it was not listed as one of our, even like we were considering it. But then it was like, well, we got an open date. Let's look. And then Carson immediately is just like, hey, let's, this is a big one because, what they've been able to do, you're replacing some really talented Reisner, Williams, Conkle, I mean, just some really talented players, the Pendletons. You had a really nice group, and when Coach Miller called in, one of the things he said was, they competed every night in practice. They lost one game last year on JV. Now you step in and you step into a bigger role. Now I know Laney Howard's played some big minutes for them as well, but they're a team that they came up doing things the right way in practice, going through the JV level, and now it's their time. And because it's their time, they've gotten off to a really good start this year, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to get down there and get a chance to see them against West.
Yeah, no question. Again, one that I won't be able to get down to, but looking forward to watching it back and getting a real good look at those two teams and where they're at early in the year.
Yeah, so West off to a 5-1 start. I saw them in person down against North Adams. That was a really good win for them. Man, they're a team. They've got some nice balance. That for them, it's the fact that they've got the variety of kids that can score it. So you've got a Macy Wisman, Brayley Pistol are two of the big ones for them, but Allie Buckner can really shoot it from the outside if she needs to. Maddie Lawless hit the game-winning three in that first game against North Adams. She's averaging almost 8 points a game, and it seems like she had to just get going early. And since then, kind of figured some things out. But man, they are a team. Hayley Carver, didn't even mention her, is a kid that is one of those really good point guards that can get them into stuff, can score it when you need to, but overall, this is a West team that I was really high on in the preseason. They've done nothing to show me that I was wrong. And
they've played, like I said, they've played some decent competition early in the year here. You mentioned the North Adams game, Piketon, correct? They had that game. So they've been tested a little bit here early in the year as well.
Yeah, their one loss was at Warren, who's a good quality program. So, I mean, you start off with a tight win over North Adams and a tight win over Piketon. Those are really good programs. So, this one should be really fun. It's Carson and Kenneth will have the call on this one. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night from Minford. Should be a really fun matchup. And then on another one, two really good games last year. Saturday afternoon, 1:30. Hillsboro at McClain. FAC title implications should be a really good one.
6-1, 3-0 on both sides here. Again, both teams have played some solid teams out of the gate. On the Hillsboro side, they pretty good balance still. I know they've lost some kids, but Davis and Miles and Jordan have all been able to score in double figures.
I'm disappointed you didn't say Miles Davis. Should have went the other way. But yeah, Davis and Miles have been outstanding. So 18.6 a game for Tylee Davis. Yeah. 13.7 rebounds, and she's not the tallest as well. Kobe Miles, 13.6 points a game. And then you've got Ella Jordan averaging over 11 points a game as well. So,
yeah, so again, it's harder to say, okay, we're going to take this away because they obviously have capability in a couple different spaces. So all three of them make the game easier to play for each other and for people around them. Over on the McClain side, obviously Pryor's been terrific, but I've talked about early in the year when I turned the film on from last year to this year. Keep in mind, last year they were really good.
Yeah.
The number one thing that jumped out at me, even a year's growth, is their physicality.
Yes.
So I think a big key in this one, John, is can Hillsboro space the floor, keep good spacing in what they're trying to do to where they can utilize some of that skill or so forth, or can McClain kind of get their bodies on them and kind of turn it into a little bit more of a half-court slugfest. And that's an interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
yeah, that'll be a really fun one. As we said, Saturday afternoon. I think Derek and Brock are going to be at that game, so we'll have a lot of coverage of that big one in the FAC. So make sure you get your eyes over towards Greenfield for that one. Should be a really fun matchup. So let's jump to our...
Hey, real quick, couple of things in my notes. I just didn't want to get shut out on Portsmouth Clay, and it was off to a 5-0 start.
Well, that was going to be in my games to watch.
Okay,
They got Green on Tuesday, so we'll talk about them just real quick.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so Tuesday, Green is 3-1 at Clay. That's one where we probably wouldn't have talked about it last night because it was going to be on Monday night. You know, when it gets pushed back to Tuesday, Abby Knapp going to Marshall, 23.5 points a game, 14 rebounds. Lainey Strickland, Elizabeth McBee, both averaging in double figures for Green as well. But man, as you mentioned, Clay 5-0, been out to an outstanding start. What do you got in your notes on him?
Well, no, I just been real impressed with the ability for Kraft and Penix to score it. Emnett obviously can score it, but setting some incredible numbers with the assist totals. It's that unselfishness and it's that culture. Obviously, this is going to be a tough matchup here with Green. But beyond just this matchup, I think this is a program that's really trending in the right direction. And I think it's one that just kind of keep your eye on throughout the year to kind of watch what they continue to go. Again, in this matchup, I've seen Green on film. Obviously, Knapp presents an incredible matchup issue, so that'll be intriguing. But it's kind of a nice measuring stick game early in the year.
Yeah, big time measuring stick game for sure for that one. So, Kraft coming in almost 23 points a game, 9 rebounds. Emma Emnett almost 19 points a game and over 10 assists per game. Ava DeMorris also averaging double figures for them as well. So, I mean, this is, as you mentioned, really good measuring stick game for Clay on Tuesday night. Now, their schedule hasn't been great so far, but, I mean, they are completely dominating teams, and that's what you need to do when you're playing those types of opponents early on. So, also on Tuesday, you've got a big TVC Ohio matchup, Athens 4-2 at Vinton County 4-2. This is part of the Athens has been making their way through some really tough teams. If they can win this, as you mentioned, their Christmas morning is going to look really nice.
Vinton County guards are going to get really tested here. This Athens group can really get after the basketball. So look no further than just can the Vikings just take care of the basketball to even play offense, because Athens can literally take you out of what you want to do. And then they not only do that, John, they take it and they create easy points on the other end. So that'll be a big factor in that one.
Big one on Tuesday night in the MSL. You've got 5-0 Fairfield Union hosting 5-1 Logan Elm. This Logan Elm team, they lose to a team that obviously had more size than them in Circleville. Circleville did a really good job against them in that one, but they've looked really good so far this year. They beat a really good McClain team. We had them on live stream beating Piketon as well. I think they are a very interesting team. This could be a really, really big first challenge for Fairfield Union, who's really taken care of business so far to a 5-0 start.
The Logan Elm guard play, there's a lot to like. Okay, they're going to spread you out. They're going to shoot the three. They're going to handle the basketball. I don't think turnovers should be a huge factor, but obviously size has been something that can really hurt them. Circleville, I believe, still off to the undefeated start at 5-0. Edgington's had an outstanding start individually to the season. Here on the Fairfield Union side, again, just the level of athlete, the size, can present a challenge to Logan Elm. So anytime Logan Elm goes out, if they can offset a little bit of the size matchup, then I think they're going to match up in the backcourt pretty well most of the time. So that'll be something intriguing to watch because, again, if you go back to last year, I think the Mid-State League just presented some front lines that really make it tough for Logan Elm to match up.
Well, the good thing for Logan Elm, they are hitting about 8.5, almost 9 threes a game for them, shooting at 35% from three-point range. So you've got, Kiana Ingram, who's outstanding, averaging 19 points a game. But then, she's hit 15 threes on the year. Balin Ray has hit 10 threes. She's in double figures. Kimmy Petty's averaging in double figures. She's hit 12 threes. And then Kennedy Groff is 7 of 15 from three as well. So, I mean, they are, man, if they can spread you out, and they can get you, stretch the floor, they're going to be a team that's going to be really tough to guard, even if you have really good size. So if they can kind of speed you up, they're going to be a really tough matchup.
Well, again, I'm not going to speak for their coaching staff. Me personally, I love the three ball, right?
Yeah.
So, whenever I had a team like that could shoot the three, I love to spread it out, love to share it. We talked about taking good threes, not just the first available three, but getting a really quality look. If that's the type of team, if they get off 25 to 30 a night, I always felt like I wanted to make about a third. But then here's something that I know throughout the Duke program for a long time that Coach K always talked about. Can you rebound half your misses? Because when you're a smaller, quicker team, John, obviously size bothers you. Well, the three ball has a tendency to have the longer rebound. Your quickness can run it down. Sometimes you can win. So what was the number you'd given me, about eight a night?
8.5, 9.
Yeah, so if they're getting off 25 to 30 quality threes, there'll be nights that team makes 10, 11, 12 threes, but can they miss or rebound half of their misses, and can they make sure that the long rebound is not hurting them in transition? If they can do that might be something that can really offset size on the other end.
Yes, I agree completely. So that's a big-time matchup on Tuesday in the MSL. I think Circleville is going to be looking at that one pretty tightly. So when I looked at the rest of the schedule for the week, outside of the games that we talked about already, not a ton, but one interesting one in SVC play. There's a couple ones. Paint Valley needs to win on Thursday at Westfall. Not going to be the easiest place to win.
Uh-huh.
But Saturday night, Piketon at Paint Valley has a chance to be a really interesting matchup in SVC play.
Well, I think it's just a thing that, again, Paint Valley continues to build themselves toward. Paint Valley's in a situation, as you said, Thursday night will not be easy at Westfall. You and I were just up there streaming a game, and they have 3 kids that can score, really 4 kids on a given night that can probably score the ball in double figures. So they defensively can challenge you a little bit. But if Paint Valley's able to continue to play the way they have, that certainly puts them in an opportunity to have kind of a measuring stick type game we said earlier. But Piketon presents quite a challenge, led by Kelly and Forbes and Shanks, and they can really spread you out and make it difficult for you to match up. But Paint Valley's been getting really good minutes from Karis Dye. When she stays out of foul trouble and stays on the floor and stays composed, she's been terrific as a scorer and a rebounder, and as a result, and Paint Valley's got a really good young player, Whitney Oots. If you haven't had a chance to see her play, you're going to hear that name quite a bit. She has a great feel for the game. So Coach Norman's mixing a lot of old and young, and there's an example of what I'm talking about, a senior and a freshman leading the way, doing some really nice things for them here in the early going.
Yeah, so they've been really good defensively, has Paint Valley. Maybe they're going to face their toughest test.
Two offensive teams in Westfall and Piketon there that'll challenge that half-court defense for sure.
Yes, so should be a fun week to follow along with the Lady Bearcats as well. So, is there I think that's what we've got listed on our notes. We're getting close to that 2-hour mark, which I don't think we were expecting to do.
I think that clears the notebook.
Yeah, when we actually have topics that we were prepared for to talk about at the beginning.
I would love to get feedback on the JV.
Yes.
Going all the way back to the beginning of the show. If you're listening to this off the timestamps and you didn't catch the beginning of the show, go back to the beginning there, listen to our junior varsity discussion. And I would love, because I might be the old guy yelling to get off my lawn here. You know what I mean? I would love to get a feel for on how people view that, because I think that's an intriguing discussion that's really, really important for player development.
Yeah, I agree completely. So look forward to hearing any feedback. As always, there's so many different ways that you can follow and observe our content here. Once again, we are thrilled to be in the Chillicothe Sports Card studio.
Beautiful
we appreciate Jacob Wise setting us up here and everything, all the hard work that is taken to get to this mark is really starting to pay off, but we want to make sure we are still doing it the right way, highlighting the kids first, because that's what we're about here at the Southern Ohio Sports Authority. So lots of opportunities to watch. We're going to have 3 live streams this week. Check those out on the YouTube page. Those are always brought to you by Ohio Health. Wednesday night, we've got the Haylsboro Healthcare Coaches Call-In Show, which will be at 8 o'clock as opposed to the 7 o'clock start that we've been going with. We just got to make sure we've got everybody in here and in line. So Zane Trace fans, make sure you check that one out. That'll be Hudson Williams and Gunnar McCullough to kick off that show with me and Coach Matt Hoops in here on Wednesday night. So check that out. As always, you can see a lot of our highlights will be here. Some of them will also go on Facebook, but for the most part, they'll be here. Our interviews will be on Facebook. A lot of those come here, not always, but I think Bad Company's going to kick back into gear with here in the Chillicothe Sports Card studio as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that you have to catch up on our local athletes. Like, subscribe, get notifications here as well. It makes things a little bit easier if we ever do go live, which we almost did today. We almost went live, but which would have been maybe easier. I would have just hit live here and everything, but instead I got to do the little editing, which we'll see how that goes, because it's a new process. So
we don't mess up very much. So
that's a thing. So I think me and Dewey were going to go live fairly often, and the second week I coughed the entire show. I think he had to edit it like crazy. He was like, I don't think we can ever really go live, because the first couple weren't very good. Then after that, it's we don't really I got up, I could hear you the entire time, so I was able to just come in and hopefully that won't happen very often as well, but those things do happen. So if our cameras were going a little too fast paced on the back and forth, we'll see. Tightening that up. When I rewatch it, we'll see how that goes. But I think most of you guys just listen anyway. So we appreciate everyone listening as well as watching as well. So you got anything else?
Basis for radio.
When they're like, we're gonna put these cameras, I'm like, I don't know if that's great for us. So that's we need Coach Hoops for that. So but yeah, so check us out. Any of our live streams, get out. If you can't get out, or you're like, man, I just want to stay warm.
That's it.
Which we understand. We got plenty of games.
Hey,
for you to
I've
watch.
watched a boatload of high school basketball over the last 72 hours, where I'm all over the place looking for different games, and I've really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. Everyone stay safe out there, stay warm, and so we appreciate you joining us. So for Shayne Combs, I'm John Bruce. You've been watching SOSA Overtime presented by Perfection One. Have a great rest of your week.